When Lionel Messi met Ibrahim Traoré, the world wasn't watching. But it should have. What began as a private encounter became a quiet earthquake. A moment where truth defied headlines, where guilt met grace, and where two legends stood against a system that failed Africa. This is the silence breaking. Messi. I've played in every stadium, heard every anthem, felt the roar of millions. But standing here with you, I feel something I never felt before. Not fear, not fame, but shame. Shame? You Lionel? But Messi. I was celebrated on a continent that we, my world, ignored. I rose on the backs of fans from Africa, while the same world that built me crushed yours. And I stayed quiet. You were never our enemy, Messi. You inspired our children. You gave them joy, hope. That matters. Messi, gripping Traoré's hand. Hope, but no justice. Dreams, but no protection. When I flew over Ouagadougou, when I saw the land, the faces, realized, you don't need footballers. You need the world to wake up, to listen, to kneel if necessary and ask, what have we done to Africa? Africa remembers its friends, Lionel. But we also remember silence. The silence of the powerful. The silence of those who came, took, and left us broken. The silence that kills more surely than any bullet. Messi, voice trembling. And I was one of them. Not with weapons, but with silence. With comfort. With privilege. Traoré, softly. You are here now. That counts. Messi. It's not enough. That's why I came not with jerseys, not with a speech, but with a plea. I looked at my own children, Lionel Jr., Thiago, and I thought, if they were born here, would they survive? Would they dream? Or would they be mining someone else's future barefoot? And that is the difference between sympathy and truth. You ask the question the world fears. Messi, eyes watering. Forgive us, Ibrahim. We failed Africa. We took the music, the diamonds, the talent, and gave back nothing but pain. And now, I look at you and I see something the West can no longer ignore. You are not just a president. You are a mirror. You reflect everything they ran from. Traoré, closing his eyes. They don't fear me, Lionel. They fear the day Africa stops begging. They fear the day Africa remembers who she is. And that day is now. That's why I didn't bring cameras. I didn't bring press. I came as a man, a father, a human being, to say, you deserve more. Your people deserve more. The world owes you more. Then let the message go beyond words. Let this not be a meeting of pity, but of purpose. Stand with us not in sympathy, but in solidarity. Messi, gripping his hand tighter. Then I ask you, Ibrahim, let me walk with you. Let me lend this name, this face, not to FIFA, but to freedom. Let the world know, I stand with Africa. Not as a guest, but as a son who finally came home. Then be prepared, Lionel. Because the moment you choose Africa, you'll lose something in the West. I already have. I've watched the way they look at me since I mentioned your name. No longer their obedience symbol. Now I'm a threat. They built you, Lionel. They crowned you. And the West doesn't forgive its stars when they kneel before the truth. Messi, comely. Let them strip me of trophies. Let them erase me from murals. But they will never erase this moment. This truth. Then let's speak plainly. You want to know what the West fears most? It's not African armies. It's African unity. It's a man like you, bringing light to a lie they've hidden for centuries. I see it now. How they applaud when I raise a cup, but grow silent when I raise a question. Why does a continent that fuels the world still drink dirty water? Why are African doctors sewing wounds with no gloves, while European museums display African masks behind glass cases like trophies? Because the West doesn't trade in truth, Lionel. It trades in stories. And the greatest lie ever told was that Africa is weak, so they could justify their strength. Messi, his voice firmer. I've been in those rooms, Ibrahim. Private dinners with billionaires, presidents, royal families. I heard how they speak of your rise. Not with respect, but fear. Fear of what? That Africa has found her voice? Messi. Fear that a man like you might remind them of who they used to be. Before comfort killed their courage. Before wealth blinded their conscience. You terrify them because you are not for sale. You don't bow. You don't beg. And worse, you inspire. Sure. Let them fear. We did not come to please the old empire. We came to bury it. With truth. With vision. With dignity. Messi, quietly. They will try to turn me against you. I know how this works. One headline at a time. One scandal. One whisper. They will paint me as lost, radical, broken. Sure. And yet you stand here. Which means they already failed. Messi. I didn't come to make history. I came because I couldn't sleep anymore. I looked at the mirror and asked myself, what good is being the greatest? If I said nothing when the world was burning quietly? Traoré, with fire in his voice. Then speak, Lionel. Not just in interviews. Speak in action. Let your silence be replaced with fire. Let your platform become a hammer. Strike the lies. Strike the systems. Strike the fear. Messi. I will. I want to stand before the UN and tell them. You sat on golden chairs while African children died barefoot. You hosted climate summits while extracting from the lungs of the Congo. You wore African beauty on your fashion runways, while mocking African pride on your news stations. Sure. Now you understand. This isn't just politics. This is a war for the soul of humanity. And men like you are not just players anymore. You are keys. Doors open or close depending on what you say next. Messi, with resolve. Then let me say this, clearly, loudly, without apology. The West failed Africa. And if we remain silent, we fail again. But this time, it won't be because we didn't know. It will be because we didn't care. Sure. And that, Lionel, is the line between guilt and redemption. You cannot undo the past, but you can decide what comes next. Messi. Then let this be the beginning. Let this meeting echo beyond this room. Let every boy in Dakar, every girl in Harare, know that one day, even the greatest name in football stood up and said, I will not be silent anymore. Traoré, smiling slightly. The world is listening, Messi. The question is, will it have the courage to answer? Messi. Ibrahim, before I came to see you, I spent nights scrolling through headlines. I searched your name. Not in African papers, but in the European ones. In the languages of empires. And what I saw made my stomach turn. Traoré, quietly, you saw their real war. It's not fought with tanks anymore. It's fought with narratives. Messi. They called you a militant, a puppet, a danger to democracy. Not once did they mention your schools, your clinics, your courage. Only the fear they feel. Only the words that would make the West sleep easier. Sure. They cannot kill me with bullets. So they try to kill me with language. That's how the modern colonizer works. They don't chain your body anymore. They chain your image. Messi. They control the frame. And if they control the frame, they control the world's attention. Sure. Now you see. The European media doesn't report Africa. It invents Africa. One crisis at a time. One tragedy at a time. Never the victory. Never the dignity. Messi. When I scored goals, they called me a genius. But when an African president refuses to bow, they call him a threat. That's when I understood. It was never about truth. It was about obedience. Sure. Exactly. They celebrate black athletes, black artists, black performers. But when a black leader dares to lead without Western approval, he becomes an enemy. Messi. And they use the media as their weapon. I know the game. I've seen what happens behind closed doors. Journalists handed pre-written stories. Producers told, make him look dangerous. Editors saying, find the worst photo. Sure. Because a free African is more terrifying to them than $1 billion scandal. A man who thinks for himself is the real revolution. Messi. They never showed your people cheering. They only showed smoke. They never quoted your speeches, only twisted your soundbites. Sure. And when a man like me says, we will not be ruled, they hear, he will attack us. Messi, angrily. But they never ask why Africa is angry. They never ask what the West took. They report the reaction, but never the reason. Sure. Because their job isn't to inform. It's to preserve the illusion. The illusion that Europe is the savior, and Africa, the eternal victim. They won't print this conversation. They won't quote these words. Because truth like this, it doesn't fit their business model. Sure. Then we will print it ourselves. In action. In resistance. In a generation that no longer believes what it's told. Messi, reflective. Do you know what hurts me most, Ibrahim? That I was part of their illusion. They used my silence to sell comfort. They used my fame to distract the world from its guilt. And I let them. Sure. But now you speak. And when the famous speak truth, even the deaf start to listen. Then let me say it clearly, for every newsroom that twisted your name. You fear Ibrahim Traoré because he tells the truth you buried. You fear Africa because you know what you owe. And one day the world will calculate that debt, not in currency, but in conscience. Sure. They think we want revenge. We don't. We want remembrance. We want recognition. We want the world to stop pretending that exploitation is philanthropy. They publish headlines like, Traoré rejects Western aid. But never mention that same aid was a leash. Tied tight. Decorated with smiles. But still a leash. Sure. Let them write what they want. History will rewrite their headlines. Then I'll help. I'll speak in every interview. I'll call out the networks. Le Monde. El País. The ones who claimed neutrality, while their ink was dripping with bias. Traoré, calmly. Expose them not with rage, but with light. Show the world what they didn't. The Africa that breathes. The Africa that dreams. The Africa that refuses to bow. And show them the cost of silence. Because I will never be quiet again. Not when your image is being assassinated in headlines written by cowards. Sure. Then walk with us, Messi. Not as a guest, but as a witness. Not as a footballer, but as a fighter. I am ready. Let the world hear this. The media may distort a man's image, but it cannot bury his truth forever. Let this be the last time they write our stories for us. Let this be the last time African dignity is edited out by Western editors. From this day on, I will not play the game of silence. I will not wear the crown of fame if it comes at the price of truth. I am not their puppet. Not anymore. Sure. Then you are not alone. Because in the heart of Africa, a storm has begun. And this time, it's not made of wind. It's made of memory, of awakening, of names like yours, turning from icons into instruments of justice. Let them hear us. Let them fear this unity. Let them know that the story of Africa will no longer be told by those who looted her. It will be told by her sons, by her daughters, by those who chose to stand. Sure. And when that story is told, it will not begin with pain. It will begin with fire and end with freedom.